Hi, in the last video we linked our web editor to our web server, and now we are ready to make a PHP file to actually receive the user's inserted information in the form. Now there are essentially two steps in order to do that. We need to link the form in the HTML file and the PHP file, and we need to link the form fields and the reception of data in the web server within the PHP file. Now the link between the form and the PHP file, if you remember in the early videos of this series, is done with the action attribute of the form tag, and essentially the value of the action attribute is the URL of the PHP file in the web server. And the link between the form fields and the reception of data in the web server, in other words the PHP file, is the name attribute of the field tags. So this is an example, so as you can see, example of the latter. So as you can see, this is an input type text, a text box in other words, and has two attributes, the name attribute and the ID attribute. Both have a value sender name. Now this sender name, so the value of the name attribute, is essential to making the link in the PHP file. So the data will actually be received then. Well, this is how you define a variable in PHP, and in this case it is an array. This, as you can see in the post array, the sender name is also there. Now let's go and code it though. So I'm gonna move to my web editor, which is Comodo. The first thing that I'm gonna do, as you can see, I already started working on a very simple form for utilizing its data with PHP, and the first step that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create that PHP file. So here I'm gonna make the form in my HTML file. The HTML file is on my computer, and I'm gonna create a PHP file which I'm gonna save on the web server. As you can see in Comodo Edit, we can make a new PHP file. The first step that I'm gonna do is to save the file in the web server. In order to do that, I need to go to the file menu and save as other remote file. So once I click here, I can choose my FTP server. Probably you're gonna have only this one, only the one that we named as my free web host. And once you click that, it might take some time, but here you're gonna see this type of information. So essentially this is your folder, your root folder on your web server. Now you need to double click on the public HTML folder. So now you're within the public HTML folder of your web server, and as you can see, there are already two files in the case of 000webhost.com, and I'm gonna name my file as formhandler.php, and I'm gonna save that file. Now it might take some time. You see that now it is saved as formhandler.php. Now, so once it's saved, we can actually check it by getting the URL, or typing the URL if you like, of our web editor, and then typing the name. so form handler.php, and if I would click on enter on the enter button, if I would hit the enter button, you're gonna see that, well, actually this is now our form handler. So obviously there is nothing in that PHP file, and we're gonna fill it in. Well, just to type a simple example so that you can see that this is actually our PHP file. So I type the command echo hello world and hit the save button. I'm gonna wait till my PHP file saves. So now essentially the web editor tries to save the file on the web server. Now the file is saved. So if I would move now on my web browser and hit the refresh button, you can see the hello world here being printed. But that's not what we want. So what we want was a simple example for utilizing the form data with PHP. Now remember, the first thing that we need to do is we need to link the form with the web server, the PHP file on the web server. And to do that, well, we need to use the action attribute. And in the action attribute, we put the URL of our PHP file. So in that way, we're making the connection to the web server. Now, a second essential aspect or attribute of the form tag is the method. And usually, as we mentioned in an earlier video, we're going to use the method post. Now finally, I'm going to make a very simple form. With one field. Well, as we said, it's good practice to have an ID, and always we need a name tag. I'm gonna give it also a label, just indent it here. And finally, I'm gonna make one submit button right here. So after saving my HTML file, I'm going to copy the full path and paste it now on my on the address of my web browser. Now, as you can see from the path, this file is on my computer. Actually, I'm gonna leave that echo statement right here on the PHP file so that it becomes apparent. So as you can see, this HTML file actually is on my computer. I'm still waiting for the PHP file to save that echo statement right here. But once I'm gonna hit the submit button, well, nothing is done with the data still on the PHP file. But once I hit the submit button, as you can see, the form redirects, submits, if you like, the data into the web server, into my form handler.php file. So I'm gonna click back and go back to my form. Now, as we said, the way to receive the data on the PHP file looks something like that. So we need to use this special array, which is known as the post array in PHP. Let me increase the font size so you can see that better. So we need to use this array. For more information, I would refer you to the Codecademy PHP track in order to understand what are variables and what are arrays in PHP. And then we need to copy and paste the name of the form field, the name attribute of the form field that we want to actually handle. So in my case, it's the sender name. So I'm gonna save the file. Okay, that was quite fast. And now what you're gonna see is whatever I insert here as a name. So for example, if it would be something like that, or since it's the first name only, if it would be only Javed, and once I click the data of the server, now I'm echoing, in other words, I'm printing whatever the user has inserted in this form. So as you can see, in this case it's Javed, it could be something else. So whatever the user inserts, the form handler PHP types. Now to do something more meaningful, I'm gonna use the mail function of PHP, and as you can see here, Komodo gives us some indication of what the mail function expects as parameters. So the first thing that it expects is the to, so it's a string variable, so the to will be to whom you want to send this email. So I'm gonna here insert my own email. Now the second parameter is the subject. So here we can insert something like test email from web server. Obviously this could be something that you have in your own form. The third parameter is the message, and the message would be this email is from, and then we will actually here concatenate the post. So let me create a new variable. I'm gonna name it a message, and then copy and paste this string right here so that it's more clear. So now what's gonna happen if I'm going to submit my form again, and I'm gonna save the PHP file. So now what's gonna happen in this PHP file, first it's gonna print the sender name, and the sender name, remember, was the value of the name attribute in my form. Then it's gonna create the string, this email is from, and it will just link, just add the sender's name, and then it's gonna send me an email with this subject and this message. So if I would actually go back and resubmit the form, well, I see the name that has been inserted by the user, and in a few minutes I will expect to receive an email with this subject and this message on my mailbox. Now this essentially closes the loop. From creating several videos back, we created forms. We saw all of the different form fields that exist. We used JavaScript to validate the user's data and provide feedback to the user. And with this final few videos, we're closing the loop by utilizing the user's data and, for example, sending an email to a person with combining the user's data from the form. Now, as a final assignment, I would like you to ask a form field on the previous form and adapt the PHP file to receive it. And with this video, we are actually concluding this series of videos on web forms, JavaScript, and PHP.